What if the way you've been engaging in sex throughout your life has led to a lack of intimacy as you age? Allow me to introduce you to Harold. At 72, he was a kind retiree who had recently gone through a divorce. After years of solitude, he found someone special and attempted to reconnect intimately, but his body didn't cooperate. This left him in a state of panic. She distanced herself, and he never made another attempt, not due to a lack of desire, but because he believed he was broken. I'm Dr. James, a urologist and expert in men's health. For over 3 decades, I've assisted thousands of men in their 60s and 70s in regaining confidence, rekindling intimacy, and safeguarding their health in ways they never imagined possible. Many men think their sexual life naturally concludes with age, but that's simply untrue. The real issue is often a lack of education on the subject. Today, I'll disclose 5 vital secrets about sex that older men wish they had known earlier, along with the real consequences of not knowing. Before we dive in, if you find this type of sincere, transformative health advice beneficial, please subscribe and activate notifications to ensure you never miss out on insights tailored for men like you. If this resonates with you, please type 1 in the comments to let me know you're here. If not, type 0. I genuinely want to improve and serve you better. Let's start with the first revelation, which often causes more heartbreak and loss of confidence than any other: the misconception that intimacy after 60 should still be spontaneous. The first secret is that you can no longer depend on spontaneity. This isn't a sign of weakness, it's wisdom. In your younger years, intimacy could occur anytime, anywhere, without a second thought. Your desires matched your capabilities, and everything seemed to work. Being ready at any moment brought a sense of pride, eliminating the need for discussion, planning, or preparation. For most men, that spontaneity added excitement to intimacy. However, here's the truth no one tells you. After 60, the dynamics change. Clinging to the notion that you should still perform at the drop of a hat is not only unrealistic, it can be dangerous. I frequently see men enter my office with their heads down, avoiding eye contact. They're not physically ill or injured, but they are emotionally and psychologically devastated due to one failed intimate moment. They attempted to reconnect with their partner, but their bodies didn't comply. Instead of understanding what transpired, they blamed themselves, feeling weak, embarrassed, and ashamed. Some men altogether avoid sex after such experiences, while others pretend nothing happened and suffer in silence. Most never seek help. One memorable case was Gerald, a 69-year-old who was healthy and active, but had just begun dating after years of solitude. Everything seemed promising until one night when intimacy became physical. He hadn't prepared, expecting everything to flow naturally, as it always had. When it didn't happen, and his body let him down, he panicked, made an excuse, and never followed up with her, not out of indifference, but because he felt humiliated. He later expressed, "It felt like I lost a part of my manhood that night." This is the price many older men pay when they fail to grasp the realities of aging and intimacy. It's not just a disappointing experience, it erodes their identity, confidence, and emotional well-being. For some, it marks the start of isolation. They stop trying, withdraw from their partners, and lose connection not only physically, but emotionally. As that emotional gap widens, so do feelings of loneliness, resentment, and the belief that their best years are behind them. But here's the essential truth you need to understand. Losing spontaneity doesn't equate to losing intimacy. What worked at 30 was based on biology, but what works at 60, 70, or 80 must be founded on intention, communication, and preparation. That's not a sign of weakness. It's wisdom and maturity. In many ways, it fosters a deeper, more significant connection. Planning for intimacy doesn't diminish its magic. It safeguards it. It signals to your body, partner, and heart that this matters, It allows time to enhance blood flow, reduce stress, avoid medications that hinder performance, and set the right emotional atmosphere. More importantly, it alleviates pressure. When you cease expecting your body to respond as it once did, you start to discover peace and enjoyment in the process rather than merely in the outcome. However, neglecting this truth comes with serious risks. I'm not just talking about emotional disappointment. I'm referring to men who have experienced heart attacks, strokes, or sudden drops in blood pressure from attempting to push their bodies too hard and too fast without any preparation. Intimacy, like any physical endeavor, requires respect. If you disregard that, treating sex after 60 as if it were the same as in your 20s, you may be putting more than just your ego at stake. You could be risking your life. I've counseled widows who lost their husbands during intimate moments because they were too proud to admit they needed to slow down. I've spoken to men who ended up in emergency rooms after mixing blood pressure medications with enhancement pills without consulting a doctor. I've seen too many men pay the ultimate price because no one warned them that aging changes the dynamics and they must adapt accordingly. The good news is that once you recognize that intimacy during later life necessitates a different approach, everything begins to change. Communication intensifies, anxiety diminishes, satisfaction returns, and most importantly, you reclaim your role, not as the man you were at 30, but as the wiser, more grounded individual you are now. So if you've been feeling disconnected, frustrated, or ashamed, understand this. It's not the end. It's a new beginning, provided you're willing to release outdated expectations and embrace a smarter, safer, more empowering approach to intimacy. Now, we must address something even more urgent. While many men concentrate on what happens in the bedroom, they overlook what their performance is signaling about their heart health. Ignoring that signal could cost you everything. Secret 2. Erections serve as a reflection of your heart health. Let me be candid. If you're over 60 and have noticed changes in your ability to achieve or maintain an erection, you should be concerned, not only for your sex life, but also for your heart health. Too many men perceive erectile dysfunction as just a problem in the bedroom, an embarrassing hassle, or something to dismiss or joke about. What they don't realize, and what they've never been told, is that a man's erection is more than just a sexual response. It's a cardiovascular event, one of the most sensitive indicators of blood flow in the body. When that blood flow decreases, something more serious is happening. I recall a patient named David, 67, who was married, still working part-time, and active. He came to me with bedroom issues, not anything severe, just not quite the same as before. "Probably just age, right, Doc?" he chuckled. But I didn't laugh. After asking him some questions and running tests, something felt off. I ordered a complete cardiac evaluation. 3 weeks later, David was undergoing surgery for a 90% blockage in his left anterior descending artery, known as the widowmaker. That night, he called me from his hospital bed saying, "I thought I had a sex problem, but it turns out I had a time bomb in my chest." What many men fail to grasp is that the arteries in the penis are smaller than those in the heart, meaning they can become clogged or narrowed faster. If blood can't flow there, it's a red flag that the larger arteries, especially those supplying the heart and brain, might already be compromised. Erectile dysfunction is often the first sign of cardiovascular disease, serving as your body's subtle plea for help. Ignoring that signal can have deadly consequences. I've seen men dismiss it, buy over-the-counter pills, or attribute it to stress or aging while they walk around with dangerously high blood pressure, blocked arteries, or undiagnosed diabetes. They don't recognize the danger until it's too late, until a stroke leaves them paralyzed, a heart attack strikes during sleep, or the damage becomes irreversible. The emotional toll is equally devastating. When a man feels he's losing control of his body, it chips away at his confidence, self-image, and even his desire to connect. He may withdraw from his partner, stop pursuing intimacy out of fear, and gradually feel invisible, as if his best years are behind him. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be this way. You have more control than you realize. If you view your erection as a signal rather than a source of shame, you can identify problems early on. You can implement significant changes that not only enhance your sex life, but also prolong it. A weak erection may be your body's way of signaling, "I need help." The tragedy is that many men wait until that whisper becomes a scream. That's why I advise every man I treat. If there's a change in your ability to perform, don't hide it. Don't ignore it. Don't feel embarrassed. Be proactive. Get your heart examined. Run the tests. Have the conversation. Because when an uncomfortable doctor's visit today could translate into 10 more healthy years with your spouse, family, and life. This isn't about shame. It's about survival. The good news is that once you address the root cause, be it blood flow issues, hormone imbalances, or stress, things often improve. I've had men in their 70s tell me they feel like they're 45 again, not due to magic, but because they listened to their bodies and acted before it was too late. Now, I want to share something even more personal. While the heart affects the body, there's another layer that often goes unspoken. It resides in your emotions, memories, and sense of touch. This aspect of intimacy isn't taught in medical school, yet it's often the most healing. Without it, sex can become empty, disconnected, and even painful. In the next secret, we'll explore the emotional significance of sex after 60 and how its absence could be silently undermining your health more than you realize. Stay tuned. This next part might hit closer to home than you think. Secret 3. Sex transcends the physical. It's emotional medicine. Reflect on a time when you felt profoundly connected to someone, not just physically, but emotionally, when their touch made you feel seen, understood, and alive. For many men, such moments are rare and even scarcer as we age. However, intimacy after 60 involves not just the body, but also the heart, mind, and spirit. When that emotional connection fades, the consequences extend beyond mere lack of pleasure. I've sat across from men in their 70s, strong individuals who have built businesses, raised families, and established legacies. Yet their voices tremble as they confess, "I haven't felt close to anyone in years, not just sexually." Emotionally, they aren't yearning for sex. They're craving closeness, human warmth, someone to hold their hand and mean it. This unmet longing can gradually deteriorate a man's mental and physical health in ways most doctors fail to mention. One patient, Martin, 74, visited me not due to physical struggles, but because he felt emotionally numb. His wife had passed away 5 years prior, and he had isolated himself, convinced that intimacy was no longer part of his life. He said, "What's the point at this age?" But I could see the longing in his eyes. He missed the connection, the laughter, the touch. Over time, that emotional distance morphed into depression, insomnia, and rising blood pressure that no medication seemed to alleviate. What Martin didn't realize, and what most older men never hear, is that intimacy functions as a form of emotional medicine. Physical affection, whether shared with a partner or through self-touch, releases oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. These aren't merely feel-good chemicals. They regulate mood, alleviate stress, enhance sleep, bolster immune function, and lower heart disease risk. In essence, losing intimacy means losing a vital part of your health. Yet many men push it away, convincing themselves that connection is only for the young, that expressing need is a sign of weakness, and that vulnerability should be concealed. Consequently, they withdraw, resist physical closeness, even when it's offered, suppress their emotions, and remain silent. But this silence comes at a cost: an increased risk of depression, elevated cortisol levels, weakened immune response, higher blood pressure, and, in many cases, an accelerated decline in brain function due to chronic emotional isolation. IBBAOM witnessed men age 10 years in half the time simply because they lacked someone to hold, talk to at night, or share their body and soul with. They lived long enough to survive, but not well enough to truly feel alive. This issue isn't solely about being in a relationship. Some men are married but haven't genuinely connected with their spouses in decades, while others are single yet maintain rich emotional lives through friendships, conversations, and self-acceptance. The crux is that emotional intimacy is as crucial as physical health. Without it, you're running on empty. I must share a potentially difficult truth. If you're feeling disconnected, have lost interest in touch, or have convinced yourself that affection no longer matters, you might be slipping into emotional starvation, costing you far more than you realize. However, it's not too late. Reaching out for connection, even if it feels unfamiliar or daunting, is one of the most impactful health decisions you can make in your later years. Whether through open discussions with your partner, allowing yourself to feel during moments of touch, or simply acknowledging your need for closeness, it starts with one courageous act, a decision to stop merely surviving and start truly living. Again, if you're questioning whether that connection can still bring you joy, peace, and vitality after all these years, let me assure you, it absolutely can. In fact, the most profound intimacy often arises after youth has faded, when masks drop away, leaving only authentic, vulnerable human love. Yet, an insidious obstacle continues to rob men of that joy. It's not aging or illness, but something we carry in our pockets, something we indulge in when alone. It's reshaping your brain, expectations, and capacity to feel. In the next Secret, I'll reveal why what many men turn to for escape could be the very thing eroding their confidence, satisfaction, and chance for genuine intimacy. You won't want to miss this. Secret 4. Pornography and unrealistic expectations are stealthily undermining senior confidence. There's a topic few men discuss, yet nearly all experience it. What they turn to when feeling lonely, curious, or simply trying to feel something again. It's fast, private, and easy. Pornography. While it may seem harmless, particularly for older individuals, it's one of the most potent silent destroyers of male confidence and intimacy I've encountered. In my 3 decades of working with men, I've observed a heartbreaking trend. As physical changes manifest, slower arousal, longer recovery times, occasional performance issues, many men retreat into fantasy. They cease trying with their partners, stop seeking affection, and find solace in screens, convincing themselves it's normal, even necessary. However, they fail to grasp that what they're consuming is reshaping their perceptions, feelings, and expectations of themselves and others. I remember a man named Walter, 71, a retired Navy veteran, proud and strong, yet something had shifted. He confided that he hadn't touched his wife in nearly 4 years. He claimed they had simply drifted apart, but the truth gradually surfaced. Walter had developed a daily habit of watching adult content. What began as an occasional escape evolved into a substitute for genuine intimacy. Over time, he started comparing what he saw on screen to his experiences at home. His wife's body, her pace, her sounds, none excited him anymore. He became bored, then resentful, eventually silent. Ultimately, she stopped reaching out to him altogether. This is the hidden cost of porn in later years. It's not just about what you see, it's about what you stop feeling. Your brain acclimates to artificial stimulation, unrealistic bodies, endless novelty, devoid of emotion and imperfection, leading to disinterest in authentic human connection. The warm, imperfect bond you once cherished may start to feel dull, even irritating. Your body follows suit. Dopamine pathways shift, arousal through touch may become challenging, and some men find they can't climax without a screen in front of them. Others experience delayed orgasm, erectile dysfunction, or a complete loss of interest. Perhaps the most damaging consequence is the internal erosion of confidence, connection, and self-worth. No matter how much you watch, you're still left with that void afterward, the quiet moment where you wonder why you don't feel satisfied, where you question, what's wrong with me? You start to believe you've changed, that it's merely aging. But deep down, you know it's not age. It's that you've been feeding your brain something artificial for so long, it's forgotten how to respond to reality. And that's frightening. I've witnessed marriages crumble, not due to infidelity or illness, but because of years spent in digital disconnection. I've seen men grow estranged from their bodies, losing faith in their ability to be present without stimulation. I've watched men spiral into guilt, shame, and secrecy, convinced they're alone in their struggles. But you're not alone. There's a way back. It begins with understanding that what you consume, especially in isolation, affects far more than just arousal. It rewires your expectations. It conditions your mind to crave constant novelty, effortless excitement, and minimal emotional investment. However, genuine intimacy is none of those things. It's patient, messy, emotional, and rooted in trust, conversation, and presence. While it may feel slower than the instant gratification of a video, it's deeper, more enduring, and fulfilling. Letting go of porn, particularly if it's been a long-standing habit, isn't easy. It demands honesty, support, and sometimes professional help. But what awaits you on the other side is worth the effort. A renewed sense of self, a deeper bond with your partner, a return to natural arousal that doesn't leave you feeling empty afterward, and perhaps most importantly, a reclaimed confidence. One, not tied to performance or fantasy, but to presence and connection. If you've been caught in that quiet disconnection, I urge you to pause and ask yourself, am I still capable of feeling something genuine? The answer, I assure you, is yes, but you must choose it repeatedly. Now, while this emotional rewiring can inflict damage over time, there's one last secret that can obliterate everything in an instant if you're not cautious. It's not about what you watch, it's about what you do, an impulsive timing mistake many men make while trying to prove their vitality. A single misstep can cost men their relationships, dignity, and, in extreme cases, their lives. This is exactly what I'll reveal in the final secret. Don't miss it. Secret 5. The most perilous time to engage in sex is when you feel compelled to prove yourself. A moment may unexpectedly arise for many older men, a moment when they feel bold, energized, even invincible. Perhaps it follows a positive doctor's visit, or a compliment from a friend suggesting they've still got it. Maybe it's ignited by a new romantic interest, stirring feelings long dormant. In that moment, something risky occurs. They feel the urge to prove it, to themselves, their partner, or perhaps even to time itself. They want to demonstrate that they still possess the vitality they had at 30. This leads them to engage in sex without planning, pacing, or acknowledging their boundaries. That's when the real danger surfaces. I've witnessed this scenario repeatedly. Men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s who overexert themselves in a quest to assert their masculinity. They might indulge in a bit too much wine, skip their heart, medication, or take an over-the-counter enhancement pill, stepping into the bedroom with the mindset that it's all about performance. But meanwhile, their hearts are under significant stress. Their blood pressure spikes, their breathing quickens, and their bodies, which require care and preparation, are thrust into a moment they aren't ready for. One particularly memorable case involves a man named Leonard. At 74, he was charismatic and humorous, and he had recently begun dating a younger woman. He once came to me, joking, "Doc, I have to keep up." I cautioned him, reminding him that his heart wasn't as robust as it used to be and that sex is a form of exercise, not just pleasure. He nodded, smiled, and assured me, "Don't worry, I know my limits. Yet, 2 weeks later, Leonard collapsed in a hotel room from cardiac arrest. His date panicked and called for help, but by the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. His body simply couldn't handle the pressure of that evening, not because he lacked masculinity, but because he forgot that aging requires respect, not defiance. The reality is that when older men attempt to prove they are still youthful without taking necessary precautions, the consequences can be fatal. Sex, especially in later life, involves more than just arousal. It's a full-body experience. Your heart rate increases, blood vessels expand, and breathing deepens, much like climbing a hill physically. If your heart isn't prepared for that exertion, what should be a hill can become a cliff. I've spoken with widows who shared that their husbands passed away while engaging in what they loved most. While the stories are often filled with smiles, behind them lies a deeper pain. Those deaths were preventable. The error doesn't lie in the desire for intimacy. It resides in neglecting your body's needs. It's about allowing your ego to overshadow your experience and treating your partner as an audience rather than a companion. When sex becomes a performance rather than a shared connection, it ceases to be intimacy and turns into a risk. The fear many older men harbor that they are no longer attractive, strong, or capable can drive them to make decisions that cost far more than just their pride. This is the tragedy. You don't need to prove anything. You've lived, loved, and endured more than most. Your value isn't determined by how hard, how fast, or how long you can perform. It's defined by your presence, your honesty, and your ability to listen to both your partner and your own body. Slowing down isn't surrendering, it's about survival. Pacing yourself isn't a sign of weakness, it's an act of wisdom. The most powerful thing a man can do in his later years is not to resist aging, but to embrace it with strength, clarity, and care. If you feel that urge to prove yourself in the bedroom, take a deep breath. Question your motivations. Ask yourself if it's about fostering a connection or exerting control, about love or fear. Because in that pivotal moment, the choices you make matter. You can opt for pressure and face the consequences, or you can choose presence and cultivate something far more enduring than a mere performance. And if that realization scares you, it should. This conversation isn't merely about sex. It's about ensuring you live long enough to enjoy the years that lie ahead. It's about not becoming another silent statistic. Now that you're aware of the 5 secrets, their significance, the costs, and how they quietly rob years of joy from men who remain unaware, there's one final piece I need to share. This revelation ties everything together, illustrating that learning is one thing, but living differently is where true transformation occurs. In conclusion, what you know now can save you. You've learned 5 crucial truths that many older men wish they had grasped sooner. These aren't just tips. They're pivotal insights, often overlooked moments of wisdom that differentiate men who age with strength, love, and vitality from those who gradually disconnect from their partners, their health, and, most painfully, from themselves. If there's one thing I've gleaned from my years as a doctor, it's that the most challenging aspect of aging isn't just the physical decline. It's the emotional burden of feeling invisible, uncertain, or afraid to voice one's struggles. Too many men enter my office believing they are alone in their battles, thinking their issues are embarrassing, unusual, or somehow their fault. But the truth is, your body isn't betraying you, it's evolving. And like any change in life, it requires understanding, not shame. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've uncovered. We began by discussing spontaneity, the falsehood that sex should still occur spontaneously like it did at 25. However, after 60, that mindset can lead to failure, frustration, and even hazardous outcomes. Planning isn't a sign of weakness. It's wisdom. Intimacy becomes more meaningful when it's intentional. Next, we examined the second secret. Your erection serves as a window into your heart. If blood isn't flowing where it used to, it may not be reaching your heart or brain either. That warning sign could potentially save your life if you choose to heed it. The third truth took us deeper, revealing that intimacy extends beyond the physical realm. It acts as emotional medicine. It heals, grounds, and connects. When men isolate themselves from that emotional aspect, whether due to grief, guilt, or pride, they begin to wither, not because they are elderly, but because they feel alone in a manner that stifles the soul. We then addressed the fourth danger, pornography, and the distortion of genuine connection. What begins as a quiet substitute for intimacy can, over time, rewire how you feel, love, and perceive yourself. It's not merely a habit, it's one that can rob you of your ability to be present, authentic, and fulfilled. Finally, we tackled the fifth secret. The most perilous moment for an older man isn't when he feels weak. It's when he seeks to prove he's still young. When men push their bodies beyond their limits in the name of pride, they risk not only their health, but also their relationships, and in extreme cases, their lives. So, if you find yourself resonating with these stories, if you've been struggling in silence, too ashamed or frightened to speak up, or if you've convinced yourself that these changes are just part of the natural order of things, you're mistaken. Understanding these secrets empowers you to reclaim control over your body and intimacy, allowing you to reconnect, rebuild, and redefine what these years can look like, not as a slow decline, but as a conscious, powerful chapter of your life. You don't have to settle for silence or fade into the background of your own story. Your presence, your heart, and your intimacy still carry weight. They may matter more now than ever. So, here's my parting message. If anything you've heard today struck a chord, if it prompted reflection, discomfort, or hope, don't walk away unchanged. Talk to your partner, consult your doctor, schedule that appointment, and open that dialogue. Most importantly, stop believing the myth that this phase of your life is behind you. It isn't. There's so much more awaiting you, more connection, more pleasure, more healing, and more love. But it all starts with a choice, the choice to stop merely surviving and begin truly living again. If you're still with me, still listening, and still open, I thank you. The men who transform their lives are the ones who first find the courage to listen. You've taken the first step. Now take the next one. If this message resonated with you, if even a part of it made you stop and reflect, I'd be honored if you'd let me know. Type the number 1 in the comments to indicate you're still here, still listening, and still choosing growth. And if you haven't yet, please take a moment to subscribe and tap the bell icon. I share candid, real conversations like this, tailored specifically for men like you, because you deserve more than silence. You deserve the truth and the tools to live your best years with strength, wisdom, and heart.